and welcome. You're watching Best of the Bets. My name's Christina Nicolaides and we're looking at Sunday's games plus the final of the African Cup of Nations. I have our regular guests. I have Gareth Walker, because I would start with you, Sam. We're going to start with Gareth Walker, who is our bookie from heavenbet.com. And we've got Sam Diamond, who is our editor and football expert of bestofthebets.com. How are you doing, guys?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah, I always thought you ended with him because you were saving the best for last.
So fickle.
Gosh,
Like
the bromance
fans.
continues. Right, we're going to start with Sunday's games. Manchester United versus Everton.
1.7 for Manchester United. The draw's 4 and Everton are 5.
Marouane Fellaini back in goal scoring form against Aston Villa last weekend. He'll be key. He was certainly key when he bullied United all over
Absolute
the place.
off the planet performance. That perhaps the best I've seen all season.
On that Monday night, right at the start of the season, he scored in his last 2 appearances against United.
But they did slip up defensively, Everton, in their last game.
Well, they do have this habit of shooting themselves in the foot, and
we are talking about Robin van Persie.
But so
Wayne
do
Rooney.
United. So
yes, true.
I think that's the sort of the first way I'm going to take this game. I think there'll be goals again. Maybe not as many as that 4-4 draw, but we've highlighted Everton's knack of being involved in games where both teams were on the target.
21 out of 24, 21 out of 23, I believe they're up to now.
And Manchester United haven't failed to score in a home Premier League game since December 2009.
A couple of the key issues that I'm looking at for this game. One is that United have got an absolutely massive game in Madrid. So how does that influence Ferguson's thinking for this game? He's got that cushion. Can he afford to take it a bit easier for this game? He's got to be thinking about players that he wants absolutely fresh and absolutely bang on for that Madrid game. So that could be a factor. Look at Everton. The 2 issues recently have been Johnny Heitinga, who's basically been at fault for the last 4 goals they've conceded. And then up front, Nikita Jelavic, finally Moyes has run out of patience and Victor Anichebe's come in. I'd expect him to start, and he's looked like he could really be the deal. He could be a real trump card for Everton towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
So I think there's enough there to be back in Everton at the price. I say I've been keen to oppose United on the basis that they surely can't keep on churning out these victories when not playing well. But full credit to United, they have been winning all these games. Winning's a great habit to be in. But at the price is certainly much rather be on Everton at 5 than be back in United at 1.7.
My prediction is it's going to be a draw. I actually think it will be half as good as last season. I think it will be 2-2.
I don't think you're going to get half the price. It's 11.6 for 2-2. 4-4, much bigger if you think that the impossible could repeat itself. Should just remember as well that Everton have got a really good record against the top teams this season. The only one they lost was against Chelsea when they were really unlucky to go down 2-1 up.
But if I'm going to pick a bet from this game, I'm definitely going to go. I'm actually going to do something I don't do normally. I'm going to take the 0-0 out of the equation and I'm going to go for a score draw.
Oh, score draw, which is 4.9. Yeah, you've got the option of betting on no score draw or score draw. So rather than just getting 4 for the draw, for actual score draw, so 1-1, 2-2, 3-3, 4 or whatever, 4.9. Yeah, clever way of doing it. No chance of it finishing 0-0. Cannot happen.
So you've heard what we've had to say about Manchester United versus Everton, but let's find out what Mike Holden thinks.
Anything over 4-1 Everton's a fair price, but the area that interests me is the Asian handicap with the 3/4 ball in Everton's favour. Anything around even money on that, I think, is a fairly solid bet because Everton, they've only lost twice all season. They don't lose games cheaply, as they shown last weekend against Aston Villa when the game appeared to be beyond them at one point.
OK, so we've heard what Mike Holden's had to say. Gareth, rocking Robin promotion.
If Robin van Persie scores at any time in this match, which you'd have to say there's a fair possibility he will, then HeavenBet will refund losing correct score and first and last goal scorer bets on this match.
We're going to move on to Aston Villa versus West Ham. Andy Carroll, back from since November.
It won't be a better opportunity than now for Aston Villa to actually to post 3 points on the board. Admittedly, their form at home.
Or you could look at it the other way. So there isn't a better opportunity for West Ham to actually win away from home playing Aston Villa.
I think Aston Villa have looked better in recent weeks than West Ham have away. So I actually think this is, I was certain about West Ham winning last week. I'm pretty certain about Aston Villa taking the points there.
Well, I'm not as confident on Villa. I think I've had my fingers burnt with Villa once too often this season. So Villa could well win, and 2.6 we might well look back on and think what a great price, because West Ham's away record is horrendous. They're in the relegation zone if you just look at away form. And yeah, they were so bad at Sunderland, so bad at Fulham. It's just odd to me how a team can be so abysmal away and yet turn in real decent performances at home. They lost to Reading as well, which was that set of Reading off on their great run. So maybe West Ham can spark Villa into life as well. Personally, the Villa win's not for me. I'll go with the biggest priced option of the three, which is the draw at 3.4.
I think James Collins' hamstring injury has been a big miss for West Ham at the back. He does make some sort of glaring mistakes, but they're very noticeable. I think what doesn't go noticed so much is a lot of the good work he does do. He has been a key miss for them. As I say, Villa's home form hasn't been that good, but if the crowd can get behind them early on and actually lift their young players, then I think they can see them to victory.
Okay, and we're going to move on to Liverpool versus West Brom. West Brom haven't won since Boxing Day, so 2 wins in 13 in all competitions.
Liverpool have looked good at home in the Premier League lately. They've won the last 3, an aggregate score of 11-0. When they do turn it on in front of their own fans, they look almost unstoppable.
Everything really points to a home win, really. They were sublime against Manchester City for much of the game.
Daniel Sturridge has scored 4 goals in 6 games.
Sturridge and Suarez look a really, really good combination at the moment. There's absolutely no logic, but just at the prices, surely West Brom have got to deliver something at some stage. Enough question marks against Liverpool. Not particularly in the last few home games, but just in general at Anfield, when things don't go their way, they have struggled. They lost to Aston Villa when Villa went in with a similar run of terrible form. The prices were very similar to this, and Aston Villa pulled off a big shock. So
I just think the fact that Liverpool have put these 3 wins together now has lifted their crowd, given them a bit more belief back at Anfield. I think they'll go on, and probably their home form will look quite good and respectable from now to the end of the season. But it's a very tough ask for Steve Clarke going back to Anfield, where he was a coach.
Malumbu will be back.
It's going to be key for them. They've really missed him. I think something else is that Liverpool are off to Russia to play Zenit St Petersburg in the Europa League on Thursday, so there's very little time between the 2 games. If it wasn't for that fixture on the horizon, I'd be looking at some big scores here, 5-0, 6-0, 7-0 Liverpool. I think it could have got silly. But I think now they'll just be concerned with doing enough to put this game to bed, moving on, looking at the next fixture. Wouldn't back Liverpool again on the prices, but I'd quite happily take a 2-0 scoreline.
2-0, which is 5.3. I just think it could go anywhere this game. So yeah, West Brom. Yeah, no logic to it, and probably a rather big punt in the dark. But I'm happy enough at 9.2 that I'm getting a decent price.
We're going to move on to the European games. We're going to start with Evian versus Marseille. So 16th versus 3rd.
Well, the prices wouldn't necessarily suggest that. Evian are 3.7, the draw's 3.3, and Marseille odds against 2.1. And of course, they do have to go into this game without their English talisman.
I think Barton's suspension, as funny as it is for everyone sort of looking in, it has not come at a great time for Marseille, because obviously the deal that took him to France saw Stephen Mbia go the other way. The players they brought in January are very attack-minded, and they've now conceded 8 goals in 4 league games. It's not good. And the worrying thing, I think, for Marseille is it mirrors a very poor run of form that they went on at this exact stage last season, where they went 13 without a win. And I think this could really see them drop out of the title race. Funnily enough, that 13-match run last season included a 1-0 defeat at Evian. I would not be surprised to see something similar this weekend.
Gareth?
1-0 to Evian is 8.4. I'll go with a small bet on Marseille to win 1-0 at 6.5. Low scoring, but yeah, just think Marseille might have enough, even with the misgivings that Sam's expressed there.
Okay, we're going to move on to Lyon versus Lille, 2nd versus 10th.
Another team at the top that haven't convinced recently. Lyon 2.1, the draw's 3.4, and Lille are 3.9 to win away.
Yeah, Lyon were very dubious defensively in defeat to Ajaccio last weekend. Went down 3-1 after taking the lead. Missed a penalty as well. It was a pretty horrid performance in the second half. I think they could take a while to break Lille down. This has been quite a bad-tempered affair the last few meetings. I think 3 red cards in the last 3 games between the two. Lyon have 5 times this season they've gone in level at the break and sort of eventually prevailed. I think that could be the way this one goes. Half-time draw, Lyon for me.
That's priced at 5.2, and I like the way of going with that game. Lyon should win this, and 2.1 really grabbed my attention. You look at Lille, champions 2 years ago, they had that great run at the end of last season, and we're only a couple of results of actually winning the league after looking absolutely dead and buried halfway through the season.
Yeah.
But this year just seems to have gone from bad to worse, and I like Lyon at 2.1 here.
They've lacked real spark lately, Lille. It's only sort of Dimitri Payet who's impressed intermittently, but apart from that, it's looking quite stale. So I can't really see them going there and shocking them at all.
Okay, and our final game. This is all you, Gareth. You're so excited. African Cup of Nations. It's the final. Go on, I'll even let you introduce it.
I've been absolutely lapping up this tournament. The final we've got is Nigeria, who are 1.95, versus Burkina Faso, who are 4. And the draw in 90 minutes is 3.3. Those prices are the 90-minute prices. And to win the African Cup of Nations outright, Nigeria are 1.5 and Burkina Faso are 2.9.
Surely Nigeria should win the final.
Well, you say that. It's an absolute amazing story that Burkina Faso are in the final.
I know.
They've got absolutely no pedigree at all. The only time they've had any sort of run in this competition was in 1998 when they hosted the tournament. They reached the semi-finals then.
Yeah.
Apart from them, they haven't won a game.
Yeah.
Never mind, got through. The game that they're involved in against Ghana in the semi-final was one of the most incredible games I've ever seen. Burkina Faso, time and time again, had decisions go against them that you'd think would have knocked the stuffing out of any other team. And yet they still kept on coming, and it was a real fantastic moment when they won on penalties. And I've been with them all the way through this tournament, and I'm still confident that they can get a result in the final. Aristide Banse up front, he plays for Augsburg, but he's looked really good when he's been in action. Alan Traore unfortunately injured, and then we've got this Jonathan Petroipa suspension, which I'm hoping will be overturned because it was an absolute travesty of a red card. But as things stand, it looks like he'll miss out. Up against that, you've got Nigeria. Emmanuel Emenike of Spartak Moscow has looked in fine touch. Victor Moses be very familiar to English audiences.
Didn't both of those go off injured as well?
I mean, there's question marks against those. I assume they're going to be all right, but Nigeria could end up paying a very big price for trying to get Emenike the top goal scorer award, because he stayed on when the game was safe, used up all the substitutions, and then went off near the end.
Let's just remind everyone that Nigeria is through to the final because they beat Mali 4-1.
Yeah, that form line I'm not so interested in. The Ivory Coast form line, they were very impressive there, looked very good.
Looking at past finals, sort of the most recent 6 finals, I think I've got scorelines here: 0-0, 1-0, 1-0, 0-0, 2-1 and 0-0. So they're obviously not only very cagey, but it's just, yeah, I think it could follow that trend of the unders games here.
When these two teams met in the group stage, Nigeria went 1-0 up, then had a man sent off. Edie Ambrose was sent off with quarter of an hour to go. And then they really defended badly. Burkina Faso scored a last-minute equaliser, and there was only 4 Nigerians back defending. So, and Burkina Faso do go to the end. I think a repeat of that 1-1 scoreline would be a fair shout as a possibility for this, with Burkina Faso then going on to nick it in extra time or on penalties.
I would not be surprised to see this one go all the way to penalties again, following last year's competition. To be honest, I couldn't be dissuaded from 0-0.
0-0, I think that could well be a fair shout. It's priced at 7.5.
Okay, best bet for Sunday?
I'm going to go Aston Villa. 2.6 to beat West Ham.
He likes Aston Villa.
Gareth?
I'm going to go with Lyon as my best bet. I think 2.1 at home to Lille, who look out of sorts, is great value.
Okay, and I'm going to go for Manchester United to beat Everton 3-2.
3-2 is the best bet. Impressive stuff. 18.5.
Okay. Well, that's nearly it for this week. You can catch our Champions League show, and a massive thank you to George Boateng as well, who did actually tweet about our Champions League show. Gareth, you have a promotion, Barca Beauty.
Yeah, George enjoyed the show, and I'm sure he'll enjoy the offer as well, which is if you place an outright bet on the Champions League, if Barcelona win the trophy, then we'll be refunding outright on any other selection. So you can back Manchester United to your heart's content, safe in the knowledge if Barcelona win the Champions League, you'll get your money back. That applies to absolutely anyone that you bet on.
To place your bets on any of these games and more, head to www.heavenbet.com. You can follow us on Twitter. You can tweet us as well, just like George did, at Best of the Bets. And remember, if you want to watch any of this show back, head to www.bestofthebets.com. We'll see you same time, same place next week. See you then.